Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a few seconds here. I see some people trickling in. So just going to give them a little bit of time to get settled and logged into the platform. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we can get started here. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Andrew Yukawa. I am a product manager here at ZoomerX, as well as your host for today's session. We have a very exciting agenda planned for you today, primarily centered around generative AI. And with today's time, I want to review the current state of that technology, talk a little bit about why we developed Ferma as a generative AI solution. And in the process, we'll cover some of Ferma's underlying design principles that make it fundamentally unique from any other offering available on the market. However, before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to cover. Number one, this webinar will be recorded and shared post-hoc. Number two, questions can be asked anytime through our question and answer feature, and we will be reserving the last 5 or so minutes of today's webinar for Q&A. And then thirdly, lastly, my intention is to get you guys out here by the 30-minute mark, so I will do my best to adhere to the time constraints and try to keep this as concise as possible. All right, so let's dive in, and we'll start with a little bit of an origin story. Some of you might be familiar with ZoomerX in the past, but for some background context, we, ZoomerX, started developing our AI technology, which we term Ferma, called Ferma, about 5 years ago for the purposes of conference coverage. But within the past year or so, as an observer of the space, we felt like something really interesting was happening with artificial intelligence and with generative AI. And we wanted to be at the forefront and really kind of help steer this technology in a positive and useful direction for our clients. But when we started talking to our customers, life sciences professionals like those on this call, when we started talking to our customers about the ChatGPTs of the world, about Microsoft Bing, about Google Bard, we heard a litany of concerns regarding the use of this technology and the application of this technology in their everyday workflows. So when we were talking to our customers, we heard issues of accuracy and hallucination, where there really is no room for misinformation in the life sciences space. We heard about issues of a lack of life sciences specific and life sciences relevant data sets, and more specifically, data sets that are up to date. Not just a snapshot of the internet that could be outdated by several months, or even in the case of ChatGPT, several years. When we were talking to our clients, we heard about the need for a deeper understanding of life sciences and a deeper understanding of context for the field of life sciences. And then finally, when we were talking to our customers about these generative AI models, we heard about issues of data security, privacy, and control. Particularly amongst kind of the backdrop of this highly sensitive and highly regulated sector. And so out of these critical conversations with you, with our customers, the latest iteration of Ferma was born. We knew that to truly tap into the potential of generative AI for pharma, we had to tackle these issues head on with our clients' concerns in mind. And we had to clearly differentiate ourselves using development and design from any of the other off-the-shelf general purpose large language models. And so today's webinar will be about exploring these concepts that you see up on the screen. So about exploring these concepts together. And along the way, I would like to kind of reflect on the contours of the life sciences space and really kind of think about how they've shaped the way in which Ferma as a generative AI tool for pharma and for life sciences has been developed. So that's kind of the overview and the agenda for today's session. And I think a good place to start, actually, as counterintuitive as it may sound, is actually looking at the end and looking at our accuracy or output metric. So the following chart, or the following image is a chart that's kind of been making the rounds on the internet. And at the risk of sounding overly self-promotional, we can see that Ferma delivers really impressive results with an accuracy rate within the life sciences domain that is 3 times higher than ChatGPT, whether that's 3.5 or ChatGPT 4, and is greater than any of the other alternatives. So we see Bing Chat and Bard there as well. And so this accuracy is in response to questions that are specific to the life sciences domain. Now, this is a statistic that we're very proud of, and one that the Ferma team believes holds tremendous value for professionals like yourselves that require precision in your work. But this threefold increase in accuracy compared to ChatGPT is not by chance. It's not something we've tried to manipulate. It's not something we've tried to game. It is the direct outcome of Ferma's meticulous design principles and development approach that I referred to earlier. So, before we kind of get into some of the prompts, and what we'll do is kind of compare, the aforementioned large language models, their outputs to Ferma's. But before we get there, I just want to highlight a few design principles about that elucidate, how we obtain and how we achieve this 72% accuracy metric. So there are 3 key design principles that I want to cover. The first is related to our knowledge graph. So at the foundation of Ferma's operations is our sophisticated knowledge graph that we have been cultivating over the 5 years of the product's tenure. As I mentioned, Ferma was primarily a conference coverage tool, developed as a conference coverage tool, but we've been able to adapt that knowledge graph, which is really an intricate network that kind of maps nuanced relationships between elements of life sciences information. So the common example that I give here is, if you have a molecule, that molecule is going to be tied to a brand name, it's going to be tied to a manufacturer, it's going to be tied to various approved indications, maybe a mechanism of action or a particular class of therapy, clinical trial names. And you can start to see how this becomes a very complex web of implicit associations. Another common example I give is, within oncology, you might have solid and liquid tumors. And then within solid and liquid tumors, you have a whole cascading number of therapeutic areas kind of downstream from there. And that's really what this knowledge graph is. It's a way about kind of organizing, creating structure, creating hierarchy between related terms. And that knowledge graph ensures that our responses are not just factual, but are contextually fitting. So that is one key design element of Ferma. The second design element that I want to introduce is this idea of fine-tuning. So our language model is not off the shelf. It's been designed specifically for life sciences, meaning that it can comprehend and interpret complex terminology and concepts that are so idiosyncratic to this field. And lastly, the third point on the bottom left hand here, we've equipped Ferma with access to full text data from a variety of proprietary healthcare specific data sets. So that includes PubMed, DailyMed, clinicaltrials.gov, earnings calls transcripts, SEC reports, various media outlets, manufacturer websites, and much, much more. And I would be remiss to mention that all of these data sources are updated on a daily basis so that you always have the latest and greatest information. We'll talk a little bit about robust security measures at the end, but really the combination of these design principles is what enables Ferma to perform so well. And without further ado, we can kind of take a look at these design elements in Ferma's response. And what we'll do is kind of compare and contrast the responses from the more general purpose off-the-shelf large language models and see how that compares to Ferma, and kind of see how these design principles play a crucial role in ensuring precise and reliable answers to a range of life sciences questions. So the first prompt that we're going to review is one related to clinical trials. So the prompt here is list phase 3 trials for AMG 510. And here we can see Bing Chat's attempt at handling this prompt. Bing Chat says that there's over 1,100 active clinical trials, nearly 400 studies that have reached phase 3, and over 68,000 locations worldwide. And so we can see, these numbers are very, very high, and we can see that Bing Chat's answer is littered with what we call in the industry hallucinations, essentially information that seems plausible, sounds plausible, but is factually incorrect. And for these general purpose platforms, the Bing Chats, the ChatGPTs, the Bards, hallucination is considered somewhat of an inevitable consequence of generative AI. Because the important thing to remember about these general purpose tools is that it's not just about how they're built, but also what they're intended to do. So how do the developers of these tools want their technology to behave? And this is the fundamental problem with how these general purpose large language models have been developed and how they work. In essence, these models have been shown the entire internet. ChatGPT has been shown the entire internet and asked, predict what comes next in this text you've never seen before. And while this process imbues it with all sorts of wonderful skills, right, to be able to create stories and poems and very, very rich narratives and all other sorts of creative tasks, this process also makes it prone to hallucinations, right, to misinformation, information that seems plausible, but it's factually incorrect and just completely made up. And so with Ferma, what we've done is significantly narrowed the scope of our intended solution. We've essentially turned that creativity dial all the way down to 0. We didn't design our model to handle every single prompt possible. Because to handle every single prompt possible, you're going to have to be very creative and very resourceful in your responses. But what we've done is design Ferma to specifically hone in on only questions related to the life sciences field. And by doing so, we kind of eliminate the need for Ferma to hallucinate. In fact, Ferma will only provide responses that it can draw from verified, reputable sources, and will only provide answers that are grounded in truth, that can be cross-checked and verified from these sources. So this is what happens when Ferma attempts to answer the same prompt. We get this neatly formatted, bulleted answer, with NCT IDs. We even have the titles here, phase 3, multi-center, randomized, open label, so forth. We get pertinent details indented here, recruitment status, study sponsor, indication, and we even have hyperlinks to the specific sources. And so in this case, this would hyperlink out to the clinicaltrials.gov database. And if you'd like, you have the ability to dive deeper into any of the source materials. So that's kind of our accuracy piece, how we've kind of tried to solve the hallucination and accuracy piece, kind of significantly narrowing our scope, primarily relying on the citation engine that only draws upon verified, reputable sources. So moving on to our next example here, I want to talk a little bit about data quality. And at the risk of sounding cliche, I want to talk about the concept of garbage in and garbage out, because I think it's quite relevant here in terms of the performance of these large language models. So we're going to look at ChatGPT here. No doubt, ChatGPT is a remarkably powerful model. It's something that, when I first used, I was completely blown away, and has fundamentally made me kind of rethink the way in which I approach, information and seeking out insights. So ChatGPT is a remarkably powerful model, no doubt, but it is a pre-trained model. So GBT stands for Generative Pre-Training Transformer. And ChatGPT, as this pre-trained model, has training data that actually only runs up until September 2021. So this means that ChatGPT is inherently limited in its ability to provide real-time, up-to-date information. And we see these problems manifest in the current prompt. So the prompt that we've asked ChatGPT here is, what is the growth rate of Jelmyto sales? And ChatGPT implies that, there's a little bit of a gap in its knowledge base. It says, my training only includes data up until September 2021, and I don't have ability to access real-time data or updates after that point. So past this market event or this date of September 2021, ChatGPT is not going to have any knowledge, any context of any market events that happened after that date. So it's hampered in its ability to access timely, up-to-date, recent information. With Ferma, we understand the need for well-informed, well-educated decision-making, and that can be bolstered by timely, up-to-date, recent information. And so we wanted to design Ferma so that it's always equipped with the latest and greatest information. And more specifically, what we want Ferma to do is update its data sets on a daily basis. And we're able to do so, we're able to update our model on a daily basis because we have existing and established relationships with all of our data sources. So I mentioned this earlier, but just to recap, our data sources include PubMed, DailyMed, clinicaltrials.gov, access to press releases, earnings calls, various media outlets, manufacturer websites, and so forth, all, again, updated on a daily basis. So what does that result in? This is Ferma attempting to answer the same prompt. And if you actually look at the very bottom here, we can see that Ferma is drawing upon a variety of earnings calls from this manufacturer. And it's synthesizing all of this information, indexing and sourcing the pertinent details. And it even performs some basic mathematical calculations here to calculate our intended growth rate of 34.17% year over year from 2021 to 2022. So, just to kind of recap, we've seen examples of Ferma's accuracy, seen examples of Ferma's recency here. See if we can combine these two design principles, using a more complex prompt, one that maybe requires a little bit more depth and context and life sciences understanding. So I'm going to be looking at Google Bard this time, and the prompt is, what is TP1287, who owns it, and what designation did the FDA grant it? So we can see that, Bard does avoid the hallucination problem, but it clearly acknowledges its limitations and fails to provide any meaningful answer whatsoever. If we compare and contrast this to Ferma, we can see, I know it's a little bit lengthy, but we can see that Ferma provides a fairly detailed response here. It draws upon a variety of sources: Targeted Onc, clinicaltrials.gov, National Cancer Institute, OncLive, PR Newswire. And we see that Ferma is able to structure its answer and provide it in a very concise and easy to follow manner. So, hopefully that helps elucidate some of the design principles and some of our philosophies to development of Ferma and how we've tried to resolve and how we've tried to work around maybe some of the limitations of the general purpose large language models. I mentioned, though, that there was a fourth concern, in addition to accuracy, in addition to data quality, in addition to life sciences fine-tuning and understanding. The last component that I wanted to cover here is related to our point of view on data security, privacy, and control. And when we talked to our customers, this was by far the #1 concern that we heard from our clients. And so we were very tactful and very careful in how we set up our systems. And we believe that we are fundamentally unique from every other competitor in terms of our approach to data usage. So Ferma has been constructed with an emphasis to ensure that your sensitive data remains within our systems and is never at risk of external exposure. And in doing so, we've integrated several critical measures to protect and respect your data. So the first is related to privacy. Ferma operates under the principle that your data is just that, it's yours. So we will never sell, share, or otherwise distribute your data to any third party. On the topic of security, we use advanced encryption methods and secure access controls to defend against any unauthorized access. And then finally, we believe that you should always retain complete control and ownership of your data. And in doing so, we never use the information that you as a customer, pass on to Ferma to further train or enhance our systems. So that information, you retain complete control and ownership of your data. Okay. And then, so, as we kind of near the end of our planned presentation, and before we open it up for Q&A, I do just want to spend a few minutes sharing some of the exciting updates about the future of Ferma. First and foremost, we are committed to the ongoing improvement of our systems. We have a dedicated team here that, really relishes the opportunity to solve advanced technological problems. And I'd say we're constantly and aggressively working to enhance the performance of our model for our customers. So this 72 accuracy metric is, it's our North Star, but I'll say we're not satisfied with just outperforming our competitors. We're motivated to improve this number as quickly as possible and as much as possible. So performance is something that is a huge priority for Ferma, and we're working very aggressively to continue to enhance and improve our model. I also want to mention that this technology, and we want to make this technology accessible to our clients for their own internal use. And many have begun to do so already with our BYOD, or what we're terming our Bring Your Own Data solution. So what the idea behind this offering is, we want to grant our clients access to the Ferma technology stack, in order to enable them to index their own data and internal archives. We believe that the design principles that make Ferma so fundamentally unique that we just reviewed earlier today can be applied to, harness the wealth of internal knowledge and insights that these pharma organizations ultimately sit upon. And we believe that Ferma can not only make these insights more accessible, more available, but ultimately more actionable, and really kind of promote knowledge sharing across teams, across functions, across organizations. And then the last slide that I have here before we open it up for Q&A, I want to mention, we're thrilled to offer you complimentary access to the Ferma platform. We want you to experience the Ferma platform firsthand. And so any life sciences professional with an active workplace email ID can sign up. You can activate your credentials at chat.ferma.ai. So the link is right up there. And our starter program includes up to 20 free queries per month. So I encourage you to explore Ferma and give it a spin for yourself. So that is kind of the end of the planned portion of the presentation. I appreciate everyone's attention so far. I hope there are some questions being submitted, so I will take a look and see if we have any questions submitted from any of our attendees, and I'd be happy to address them with the last 5 minutes that we have here. Okay, so question here, the sources and focus seem very pharma focused. How are you defining life sciences? Would that include preclinical research space along with tech and tools supporting? So yeah, it's a really good question. I will say that it does include preclinical research, and we actually have one of our primary use cases for pharma is kind of monitoring what's happening in terms of research and development, kind of staying up to date with the latest scientific breakthroughs and research findings, staying informed with any current news, updates, emerging trends, new clinical targets, and so forth. And so a lot of that can be accessed and indexed through either clinicaltrials.gov, looking at clinical trials, or some of the research papers that are available through PubMed. I will also mention that one thing that we're very excited about for the future of Ferma is to start bringing in conference-related data. And we actually did that with ASCO, which just wrapped up this past month. We uploaded all of the abstracts, posters, session transcripts, Q&A transcripts, social media buzz, everything kind of surrounding that conference was then made accessible, searchable, indexable through the Ferma platform. And so you could really kind of get a good grasp of what was happening, what kind of cutting edge, breakthrough medicines were being presented at that conference. And so, yeah, very, very excited about the addition of Ferma and being able to add these additional data sources to kind of cover the broad scope of life sciences. Yeah, next question here. So, can you talk about how you see customers using Ferma today? What use cases do you think are most accelerated by this tech? So yeah, Ferma launched in around the end of May. So over the course of about 2 months, we've had 1,500 users from over 180 life sciences organizations use the platform. I would say use cases include, staying up research and development. I mentioned market intelligence. So kind of getting market insights, kind of keeping abreast of the latest FDA approvals and so forth. A lot of financial analysis, leveraging Ferma for financial insights from those earnings calls and SEC reports. And then a lot of it is just mainly kind of news and trends and staying up to date with what's happening and what's developing, because there's a lot of diffraction in the space. And what makes Ferma so great is its ability to kind of query a variety of different sources and synthesize that information in a very concise and succinct and easy to digest manner. So yeah, those are kind of some numbers around the use and some of the common use cases. Yeah, so next question here. What are the sources that are using for training and how often is the model updated? So yeah, how we kind of train our model, we don't use any of the user submitted information to train our model. We actually have an entirely complete data set that has been generated internally that is used to kind of mimic the queries that our typical customers would input, but they are life sciences related queries. We have a data set and we're constantly using that to refine and train our model. Our model does go through regular evaluations. I would say every week or so we're pushing updates and tweaks to the model to enhance its performance. And we then will verify the outputs of the Ferma model against ground truth. So we have a variety of life sciences experts and consultants that will generate what they think as a accurate and verified and relevant response to those queries. And then we'll kind of compare Ferma's output to the output from those external consultants and see how well we're performing. And there's multiple dimensions in which we will evaluate a response. It's not just, is the right information there, but we'll include things like, was the answer formatted in the right way? Is it easy to interpret and comprehend? Is it concise and using simple to understand language? Does it have the latest information? Is there any extraneous information that isn't necessarily required? There are multiple dimensions at which we'll kind of evaluate the accuracy of the response to make sure that Ferma is performing as expected. Yeah, so I see it actually, sorry, we're actually at time here. There are a couple more questions that unfortunately I won't be able to get to today, but in closing, I do just want to thank everyone for their time, for their attendance, participation, and engagement in today's session. We hope this was an enlightening experience for you, and I encourage you to check out the platform. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, feedback, feel free to shoot us a line. We are available at info@ferma.ai. And just one more time, the platform is accessible at chat.ferma.ai. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.